Howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Today, we're going to play with some virtual machines. But it's not Hyper-V we're going to play with. We're going to play with the beta version of Virtual Machine Manager on the new Xpenology NAS I created. Exciting, huh? We're going to create a Windows 7 Pro virtual machine today. Then we're going to talk about Windows 10 virtual machine. We're going to get in, get our feet wet. We're going to try and install this without any instructions or any help and see if we can't figure it out together. Today is also fiber install day. I got the call on Monday. Today is Thursday. I got the call on Tuesday. I'm sorry. I lied. Got the call on Tuesday that they would be here Thursday between 1 and 3. So got that to look forward to today. I am going to film that, the installation of the fiber, and then we'll do a speed test once it gets up and running and see how it goes. My neighbor's was installed 2 days ago, and he has been relentlessly rubbing it in my face about how fast his internet is and how slow mine is, and the fact that after 8 months he's able to play online games again. So if that's your thing, great. But I'm just glad he's happy. My neighbor next to me is a 17-year-old kid I've known since before he was born. We lived out here 20 years, so he's Travis's brother, older brother. And Travis is my helper around here in my office. So I'm glad to see he got it, because their wireless over there was just horrible, abysmal, and never was fixed. So I'm very happy for my neighbor that they got their fiber installed. And I wait with bated breath over here today to see whether mine's getting installed. Alright, so I'm rambling. Let's get to the video. Alright, so let's get started with our first Windows virtual machine installation on our Xpenology NAS. So let's flip over. I'm not going to put myself on here. You don't need to see me. We'll just come in here to Chrome, or we're out at MCS-NAS2. And what I want to do is go to Virtual Machine Manager. Now the first thing I want to do is I have to put an image on here, an ISO file for Windows 7. And since we're going to be doing one for Windows 7 and Windows 10, we'll go ahead and upload both of those images to our NAS unit. So you come down here to System Image, and we're going to create a new system image, and we'll do this one as W7 Pro. For some reason the 7 didn't take. W7 Pro. This is going to be an ISO file, and we're going to upload it from the PC. So I'm going to browse, and we're going to go out to my applications drive and where I keep all my Microsoft images under partner downloads. And let's see, this is going to be Windows 7 Pro. Here's Home and Pro. I want the most recent one. Let's see, that's Windows 10. Why am I on Windows 10? On Windows 7. 64-bit, there we go. So that's the one I'm going to upload. You can't see it. For some reason it's not showing this because it's not part of a Chrome window, but I'm choosing it. Let's see here. There we go. Now it sees it. Do next. It's asking what drive array we want it stored on. We're going to choose MCS-NAS2. We're going to apply it, and you can't see it down here, but it's uploading 2%, 3%, 4%. So I'm going to do the same thing with our Windows 10 ISO image, but I'm not going to have you wait while I do that. But that's basically how you do it. You go out and you give it a name, and you tell it what location on your hard drive it's at, and it uploads it to the Virtual Machine Manager. So as you can see here, we have our Windows 7 Pro image uploaded. It's a 3 GB file. I'm going to do one more for Windows 10. We'll do it just like we did the other one. We'll do W10 Pro. We want to tell it's an ISO file, and then I'll install it from my partner downloads folder. Let me see here. Make sure I get 1607 version, and then and you couldn't see that here. Sorry about that. Click next. And then apply it, and it'll start uploading that image. We'll come back when that's done. So there is Windows 7 and there's Windows 10. Both images have now been uploaded. So let's come back to our overview. As you can see, I've already got a virtual machine on here. That's my LAMP server running Ubuntu 16.04 running LAMP. And we'll have an episode on that as well, why I'm doing that. But I wanted to see if I could figure out how to create a virtual machine for both Windows 7 and Windows 10. We're starting with Windows 7, so I assume I'm going to come here to Virtual Machine, and I'm going to create a new one. And I'm going to create a virtual machine with an ISO file. And I'm going to call it W7 Pro. Let's do W7P Lab. And we'll call this number 6. Let's give it 2 CPUs just to be generous. Let's give it, it's Windows 7, so we'll give it, let's go ahead and give it 4 gig of RAM. What the hell. The ISO file for boot up is going to be Windows 7 Pro. Additional ISO file is going to be unmounted. The network is going to be the default virtual machine network, and we're going to give it a 60 gigabyte hard drive, and we're not going to auto start it. So I'm going to click on next here, and then I want to choose the domain users that have permissions to power on and off. That'll be the administrators, Adama and myself. And then here's the stats. It's going to be Win7P-Lab-006, 2 CPUs, 4 gig of RAM, a 60 gig virtual disk, the network adapter, where I want the storage to be, users with permissions and no groups. And I'm not going to power on the virtual machine after creation. I'm just going to apply this here. Now, it's creating the virtual machine, as you can see. And it's now created it. So what I can do is come here and I can actually power it on. Then after I power it on, I can connect to it. Now after I do the install of Windows 7, there's going to be there's going to be a virtual machine add-on for the tools, and I'll have to figure out how to do that. But for now, let's turn on the virtual machine. Let me see here. Okay, it's on, I guess. Oh, select a host to run it. Okay, it's running. So let's see if I can connect to it now. Oh, looky there. It looks like it's going to work. All right, so I'll have you stick with me on this while we get the install started. We don't need to sit here and watch the whole install. You've seen that happen before. Just want to, and I'll stop and come back if there are any glitches. So we'll accept the defaults here. We'll go to install now. And I want to do Windows 7 Professional. Accept the license agreement. I'm going to do a custom install. And here is one of the issues that we ran into. So I think what's going to happen is I'm going to need to go out to Synology and find the driver for this and add that to that image. So I'm going to go out and find it. When I come across it, I'll bring the video back up. So here's the article I ran across on how to set up Windows 7 on Synology. And there is a file you need to download. It's a Synology's VirtIO driver ISO. Now this, they say, is for Windows 7. I'm assuming it's for Windows 10. We'll worry about that when we get to it. I've downloaded that image, so now I need to go back into, I'm going to go ahead and shut off this virtual machine. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to come back here to and see if I can force a shutdown of that Windows 7 virtual machine. And we'll let it do its thing. It says it's running. So let's, and now it shows it's powered off. So let's come back here to System Image, and we need to create an ISO. I'm assuming this is how we need to do it, so I'm going to tell it create. I'm going to go WinDriver. I'll just call it WinDriver. It's an ISO. I'm going to browse to that download I made. I put it in my Xpenology folder, but you won't see that here. Yeah, there it is. Syno Virtual Win 13. Next, and I'm going to make it available and apply. Alright, so I'm uploading that image. There it is. WinDriver, it's an ISO file. So now I'm going to come back to the virtual machine. I'm going to edit this virtual machine, and I'm going to tell it there's an additional ISO file, the WinDriver file. Tell it OK. And then I'm going to try to power on this machine. Then we'll connect to it, and we'll see if we have any better luck now that we have downloaded that ISO file. I'm doing all this from scratch. I've never done a Windows install on Synology before, so I can't say that I'm pleased with the virtual machine interface here, but it gets the job done, and once you get it up and running, I'm going to go ahead and do install now, and I'm going to do custom just like I did before, and I'm still not going to see a hard drive there. So I'm going to do professional next, and then accept the license terms next, and do custom. Now I still don't see it because I need to load a driver, and I think the way I come there is to load a driver. Let me browse. And I browse here to the Syno installer. Let's see, Windows 7, x86. No side drivers were found. Okay, let's browse again. And let's just choose that whole disk. Alright, let's rescan. It says no signed drivers were found. Well, let's just go through that again. Windows 7. Oh, I need to do a 64. That's because I'm a moron. I'm a 64-bit version of Windows. Alright, so now it's chosen it. We're going to tell it next, and it should load that Red Hat virtual ISO driver. And then I should be able to see the volume that I created. The virtual volume I created. As I was saying, I'm not real. There we go. There's my disk. So now we'll select next, and we'll let the install run. While the install's running, so the thing I'm not kind of real happy with is this web interface. It gives you a limited amount of options here. You can show extra keys. You can go to full screen. That's what it looks like. If you show your extra keys, you have a control key, an alt key, a tab, escape, and or control alt delete. So not a whole lot of options in this web interface, but it does get the job done. And then later you can add RDP. You can enable RDP on this workstation, and then it should be good to get. You should be able to connect to it reliably through RDP. So we're going to let the install run, and we'll come back when the install is complete. Alright, so we're making some progress now, so I thought I'd chat while we're doing this. So we called this, okay, we're going to see our login name is going to be Adama. And this is W7P-lab-006. And none of this matters, it can all be changed later. I just like to keep a little consistency. And type in our super secret password. Alright, and it's going to ask us for an activation key. We don't have one, don't worry about it. And I'm not going to have it do updates automatically. I am going to choose the right time zone. The time, of course, is not correct. That is 12:04 on Thursday the 3rd. Now, the other thing I don't see here, and keep in mind this virtual machine manager is in beta right now, so it's not ready for production environment. Another good reason that we set up this secondary Xpenology NAS, so we can play around with this stuff. And frankly, I don't see any speed difference between this and Hyper-V as of yet. It's about the same amount of feel and amount of time to set it up on Hyper-V. And now that we've got to the desktop, we need to load another piece of software to make this compatible with Synology, so it has the guest editions, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. But one thing I did notice, there are no BIOS options. You also see it doesn't see the network card yet, etc. So we'll need to load those guest editions. So I should just be able to come out here to Explorer, and I should be able to see the Syno installer. If I double click on that, there's a file called Synology Guest Agent Installer. We double click on that and follow the lovely little prompts, and then we should have all of our drivers. It may require us to reboot, but we should have all of our drivers. But what I was saying was there are no options to go in and edit the BIOS on this like you would have somewhat a BIOS control under Hyper-V or ESXi, or at least I haven't found it yet. It may take a little more digging. I'm going to just tell it always trust from Red Hat, so it'll install all these drivers, and we'll go from there. Alright, so it's loaded the network drivers, and we're going to tell it we're on a work network now. We'll close this and we'll click on finish, and then hopefully, yes, I see a network connection. Let's go out and look at Windows properties, and I see an Intel Core i5 I'm sorry, that's a 2300. I don't know why I thought that was a 4770. That's an i7 is a 4770. Anyway, it's a 2300 CPU. There's two virtual CPUs, 4 gig of RAM, 64-bit. And if we come here to Device Manager, hopefully we'll see all of our devices. Yeah, Synology, driver, standard VGA, monitor. Now, we're not going to get good resolution on here. The virtual I/O Ethernet adapter should be 2 processors. There's no USB 3 drivers, etc. And in fact, the article even says down here at the bottom, you can, there's only 2 resolutions, 1024 by 768 or 800 by 600 under the video, and then you have no sound, no USB, and the GPU driver is limited. So to get better resolution, just use Windows Remote Desktop. So if we come back here, I can go ahead and I can change my, well, I don't want to do that. I can come here, do remote settings, and allow connections from computers running any version. Adama already has access. Apply. And then I'm going to turn off the Windows firewall because I don't ever use it. So come here to Windows firewall, and I'm going to turn it off for now. I do not recommend you do that unless you know what the hell you're doing. But in my corporate environment here in my test lab, I don't need that interfering with whatever it is I'm going to do. Now, what I'm going to do for now, I've set it up for remote access, so I'm going to log off here. And I'm going to close this window. Now, I should be able to come back to my Xpenology and see the IP address that it's running on, and I can. I see it's running on 5.34. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a remote desktop into that. See if it'll let me. And then hopefully I will have sound, USB, and all the other wonderful whiz-bang stuff. And it's at this point, this is where I would come and finish up my setup of Windows 7. And you heard the Windows sound when I logged on, just to show you that it is producing sound. And it looks like I've got access to everything I need. So now I could go on, I could join this to the domain, I could do my Windows updates that I need to do, etc., etc., etc. But for now, I'm just going to log off. I'm going to come back to Chrome, and we've got Windows 7 Lab running now. So let's go ahead and create our Windows 10 virtual machine, because our Windows 7 virtual machine was so easy. In the meantime, though, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and do a shutdown on the Windows 7 machine. So I just come here and choose shutdown. Now that I have the guest options loaded on that Windows 7 machine, it says not running, not installed. Ooh, that might be a problem. Oh, it's not running, not installed because it's not running. So it did shut it down properly. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and create my Windows 10 virtual machine. So we'll call it W10P for Pro. It's a lab unit, and it's number 6 for Windows 10. We're going to give it 2 CPUs. We're going to give it 4 gig of RAM, just like we did our Windows 7. We're going to tell it Windows 10 Pro for our ISO file for boot up. And then we're going to also mount the WinDriver DVD. We're going to choose the default VM network, the default VM storage, and we're going to give it a 100 gigabyte hard drive and tell it no, we don't want to auto start. We'll give the same 2 people, Adama and Jay Straley, access to the virtual machine to power it on and off, etc. So now it's creating 75%. So now what we can do is we're going to go ahead and power that on. Okay. We're going to power it on this host. And then we're going to connect to it. And there we go. There's our little spinning circle, so it should come up here to a screen where we can do something here momentarily. Yes, it does, just like our Windows 7 screen. Next, we'll install now. Like I said, when I was doing the Windows 7 install, I'm doing the Windows 10. I don't see any speed issues at all. I'm going to tell it I don't have a product key. We're going to do Windows 10 Pro. And keep in mind, Windows 10 you can install without a product key. You can run Windows 10 without a product key. Windows 10, for all intents and purposes, is free. And then after you get Windows 10 installed, if you want to activate it, you can just use your Windows 7, Windows 8, or Windows 8.1 key, and they will all work on activating it. I'm going to do a custom install just like I did. Now I'm also going to need to come out here and do the load driver routine. Browse to that CD, the Synology installer. This time we're going to go to Windows 10, AMD 64, tell it OK, and then it should see the Red Hat Virtual I/O. Click on Next. Now this is just a driver to connect up Windows 10 with the virtual hard drive under Xpenology or Synology. That's all this driver is for, so that you can actually utilize your hard drive. And then after you get the operating system installed, then you come back and run that guest edition CD just like you would under Hyper-V or ESXi. So we'll let this run. It's about 12:15 now that this has started, my time, and we'll see how long it takes to install Windows 10. We'll come back when it's ready. So while that's installing, I brought up Resource Manager just so we'd have something to look at. And keep in mind, I already have one virtual machine running. I don't have the Windows 7, but I still have that Ubuntu LAMP server up and running. So this will give us an idea of the kind of impact the virtual machine creation is having on the system. So we're about 26% CPU, 6% of our memory is utilized. Network we're not utilizing much. Disk utilization and volume utilization, and then if we had iSCSI, we'd see the throughput. And then if I come back here to Virtual Machine Manager, you can see we're using about 27%. This one down here, this is my Ubuntu LAMP server. It's all using about 1.7%. So there you go in action, and of course Windows 10 is still loading. So here we are at 12:19, so it took basically 3 minutes for Windows 10 to install on the virtual machine. Now, it has not completed its second boot yet, so this all needs to be added to the setup time. But that's mighty impressive. 3 minutes to do an install. That's not bad at all. In fact, I'm wondering if it isn't a little bit quicker install on a virtual machine manager under Xpenology than it was under Windows Hyper-V. It just feels a little bit faster to me. Now, wouldn't that be ironic if Synology does such a good job of implementing this virtual machine manager that's actually faster than Windows Hyper-V? Wow, that would kind of be, that'd be a real shocker. It wouldn't surprise me. And I'll tell you, for a beta piece of software, now keep in mind I've been using this for a couple of days now, so your mileage might vary, but for a beta piece of software, this appears to be working pretty remarkably well. And so now we're at 12:20, so it's taken about 5 minutes, still getting ready. You know, usually this is the longest part of the Windows 10 setup, is the first boot up screen, getting to it. So I'm not going to sit here and ramble on. I'm going to let this run, and we'll come back when we get to an actual login screen. So we started at 12:15. Here we are at 12:25. I'm just going to use the Express settings. This is that in the new version of Windows 10, the one they just released, you'll have some more options under here under Customize, because Microsoft caught so much heat about sharing your information. I'll come back and edit those later. For right now, I'm just going to use Express settings. So all told, to get to that screen, it took about 10 minutes from install to, you know, first boot, where it starts asking you the questions to customize your installation of Windows 10. So we're going to put in here a DAMA and get a password, our super secret password. I honestly was going to do this video in two parts. I was going to do one for Windows 7 and one for Windows 10. But it appears to be going... No, I don't want to use Cortana, thank you. But it appears to be going quite well. Off the cuff, as they say. That's an expression. When you do it off the cuff, you're just kind of winging it, you know, without any experience. And you know, when you get to this point, you've got a bit of a wait in front of you with Microsoft. So I'll ramble on a little while this is going on. So my initial impressions are that this virtual machine manager is at least as fast, if not faster, than Hyper-V. I don't know that I'll do a direct side-by-side comparison, because it'd be a huge waste of time to just prove a point. The feeling I get from it, though, is that it is at least as fast, if not faster, than Hyper-V. And it's definitely faster than ESXi. That's one thing I noticed on ESXi 6.5. It just seemed like virtual machine creation and that initial install of the operating system took much longer than necessary. Of course, ideally what you would do is you would create a single image, you would gold master it, sysprep it, and then you would clone your other images off of that main image. Or you could even do use Veeam backup and replication once you get a master image, and Veeam zip that image to your backup folder, and then you would have that image available to you. You could create a new ID for each one of those restores you did, and it would create a new virtual machine. So we'll probably be doing some of that in the lab series as well. I was hoping that I would come to a login screen or get up to the Windows screen before I ran out of things to say, but it looks like that is not the case. We're still only at 13 minutes into this install, so I'm not complaining, but I'm not going to leave you here watching these screens change. Well, I spoke too soon. It appears it's done. So let's go ahead and get the guest editions installed. So we'll come up here to this PC, and we will come to our Sino installer. Same way, we're just going to run that Synology guest agent installer. Follow the prompts, accept the license agreement that we of course have read. So we wouldn't install anything we haven't read, folks, right? Alright. Now I don't know whether it's going to make us reboot the virtual machine. But yes, I'm always going to trust these from Red Hat. There it sees our network, so we tell it yes, we want to be able to browse it. All right. Well, let's see how that did. Let's go out here to, actually we want to come here. Right click on this PC and go to Properties. And we'll see it is Windows 10 Pro. It's an Intel Core i5, 4 gig of RAM, 64 gig. Let's go to Device Manager. And we should see, yeah, all of our devices are there. There's our disk drive. There's our network adapter. Our dual processors, USB, etc. So now what I want to do is go to Remote Settings. I want to allow remote access connections to this computer. Adama is already selected. I'm going to apply that. And then I want to come down here and I want to turn the Windows Firewall off, which I'm going to do right here, Windows Firewall, and we're just going to turn it off for now. Now, once I've done that, I should be able to remotely get into this desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and log off. Okay, so we're logged off now. I'm going to go ahead and close that window. Come back to the NAS and we'll see it's got 5.35 as its IP address. So we'll do a remote desktop session into that real quick. What did I say it was? 35? Okay, 35. And let me flip over to the left monitor here. So here I am logging in via RDP to that machine that I just created. I don't hear any sound. There we go. The sound is working. Okay, it's warning us about trying to find a driver for the screen, but it appears Windows 10 is up and running. And I can come out here and do what I need to do. Let's see if I can browse the network. There, it found everything. There's NAS. There's NAS 2. Now, did you notice something? Even though I haven't joined this machine to the domain, I am quite able to get onto these machines without any issues, without it prompting me for a username and password. And that's because my username on my local machine is the same as my domain username, and it passes through that information and allows me to get onto my network. So there you go. We've got our two virtual machines set up. It didn't take very long at all. I am remarkably impressed with this beta version of Virtual Machine Manager. Now, there's some things that could be. Let's go take a look around, see what kind of options we have. Virtual disk, network. Okay, gives us a MAC address, gives us an IP up here. If that were a high availability cluster, let's see our hosts here. So if I were to load the Virtual Machine Manager onto MCS NAS 1 or MCS NAS, it would appear here as well. Our storage, it tells us how it's doing, how much space is used. Our networking looks good, and keep in mind I've got 2 more network cards in there that I haven't set up yet. So our system images, we can now do snapshots if we needed to of our virtual machines. We've got some settings here, not a whole bunch. Here's our log file, and then we can give beta feedback to Synology to let them know how that's running. And so there you go. I don't know what else to say, guys and gals. The more I use Xpenology or Synology, and the more I get familiar with it, the more impressed I am about this this little amazing operating system that Synology has created. And I think, you know, my thoughts are insignificant. It's the same way I feel about Apple. They should release OS 10 under a GNU or a domain license, or just let people buy it and install it on their own equipment. I understand why companies like this don't do that. One, they would need to support it. Two, there's probably not as many people as you and I think would utilize this as would. Most people would rather go into their local Best Buy or Best Buy or whatever electronics place and just pull the unit off the shelf and come back and set it up on their network. they don't want to build a machine like you and I. Most people aren't like you and I. We're a special breed. Us IT people and YouTube people, we're a special breed. And YouTube fortunately has a hangout for us to hang out in. So people, you know, we have that group mentality. But I don't foresee Synology releasing their operating system without some on the hardware. And Synology has got some pretty, I don't know if you know this, they've got some top of the line equipment. I just want to show you, a lot of people think they just make little NAS units, but they're getting into pretty, let me see here, they're getting into some pretty advanced stuff with their NAS units for corporate America. Just let me give you an example. Take a look here at this. The Flash Station FS3017. These are all flash drives. Look at that. Dual Intel Xeon 6-core with NUMA. Up to 512 gigabyte DDR4. iSCSI extension. 200,000 4K random write IOPS. Look at this thing. It's beautiful. And it runs DSM, Disk Station Manager. This is a high-end. This is probably, if I were to guess, I'd say it's probably a $20,000 unit, $10,000 unit, maybe without drives. That's pretty cool. But this is pretty similar to the one I'm running. But this is a quad-core 3.3 gigahertz CPU. That's very similar to that i5 I'm running. It doesn't specifically say what CPU is running in it. But this has less RAM than I do in mine, but up to 32 gig. 10 gigabit Ethernet ready. So don't just think that Synology makes these small little wonderful NAS units for the home user. They make some pretty high-end equipment, and let's go to our desktop form factor. This is the one I'm running right here, 3617XS. But they make some, they make some really high-end stuff at Synology. So, if you're thinking about getting a network-attached storage for a business, and the customer can afford it, there's no reason not to go with Synology's products. Even the cracked, or I don't want to call it cracked, but the hacked version, the Xpenology version, is very stable, knock wood. And now I've got a second one set up here behind me. So still haven't cleaned that unit. That's on the schedule for today. But I'm going to have to cut this video off here. I got about 20 minutes until they're going to be here to install my fiber. So I got to get set up so I can film that. Hopefully the technician won't grumble too much, but he's going to be on my property, so he'll just have to deal with my... I always like to ask people before I film them, and if they don't want to be on camera, I specifically just don't film them. I don't try to block out their faces. But I like to interview people while they're installing stuff and pick their brains and make them feel like part of the process. That usually calms people down about being filmed. And or I assure them that they're not being filmed and not going to be on, on the internet. Because a lot of people just, they like their privacy, and I like to respect that. So, hope you found the video entertaining and informative. As always, give us a thumbs up down below. We got more videos coming up. We're building up to this Windows Lab series. There's a couple more Windows Lab units to put into the mix, and Xpenology is going to be our NAS for our Windows Lab. So, got some more exciting stuff coming up on that. I tend to do more videos in the fall, and now that I have a 100 meg by 100 meg internet connection, hopefully today, I'll be able to upload more videos on a regular schedule. So keep an eye out for those. Anyway, thanks again for watching so much. Thanks for your subscriptions. Give us a thumbs up down below. Leave your comments in the comments section. And don't forget to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, so you keep up and get notified when we have new videos coming out. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the other side.